West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
In the home stretch of the campaign in these midterm elections, now just a week away, Republicans have really only wanted to talk about one thing: crime. Not the kind of crime where the Democratic speaker's home is invaded and her husband is brutally assaulted by a violent right-wing attacker. Not the kind of crime where America's top secret documents are stolen by the impeached ex-president. No, a very specific type of crime. Type of crime that scares Republican and independent voters the most, to make them believe that crime is skyrocketing, that America is a hellhole. And the thing is, it works. And it works even better when you have your very own propaganda cable channel running stuff like this all day, every day. Dystopian, nakedly racist video, preferably grainy security cam footage featuring almost exclusively black people committing crime in big cities. It is like a hellscape on an endless loop. If you're a viewer of Fox News, at this point you just accept as fact that, for example, the entire city of Portland, Oregon has been burned to the ground. It's gone. Nothing left. And that every other big city in this country is a post-apocalyptic inferno.
From coast to coast, crime is exploding in Democrat-run cities.
Lawlessness in blue cities continues.
Portland and Seattle and Chicago, there's all hell is breaking loose in New York,
where people are regularly shot, beaten, and robbed in public.
Every city, it is out of control.
Chicago has become a sanctuary for violent, depraved criminals.
San Francisco devolved into a hellhole.
LA County, this is a lawless hellhole.
Dangerous, filthy hellhole.
I am getting out of this hellhole.
Your safety is in peril with Democrats in power.
I mean, honestly, that's like just a touch. This is constant. Of course, that is not reality. We all know this. But those messages, they're not for you. They are for viewers sitting at home who do not live in big cities, being frightened into thinking that urban Democratic cities are just absolutely falling apart. And that is precisely how Republican candidates are running in race after race across this country. They are telling voters that the liberals and the Democrats have screwed up. They've gone soft on criminals, and now the criminals have taken over, and Republicans need to sweep in and take the reins and crack down. They need to clean up the cities that are ruining America. None of this is new at all, or particularly clever, or even true. But here's the thing. It is a lie built atop a truth, which is what makes it so powerful. Crime is up in this country overall. The homicide rate in America shot up by 30% in 2020. It was the largest increase in more than a century, possibly ever. And again, to be clear, that is 2020 when Donald Trump was president. Early estimates indicate that homicide rate kept growing in 2021, though we still don't have all the data. And to be honest, national crime data is not great. So here's the thing. It's not some complete invention of right-wing propaganda. Not just homicide rates, but other crimes have gone up in all sorts of places. But here's the other thing. It is not happening the way they said it is. In fact, some of the hotbeds of crime in America are actually in conservative places, in red states. Last month, the Democratic candidate for governor of Oklahoma made this very point in a debate. Check it out.
So let's talk about the facts. The fact is, the rates of violent crime are higher in Oklahoma under your watch than in New York and California. That's a fact.
Well, we'll have that fact checked by the Frontier Superintendent.
It's also a fact that medical marijuana...
Oklahomans, do you believe we have higher crime than New York or California? That's what she just said.
I mean, are you kidding me? Us, Oklahoma, real America, more crime than California and New York? Now, here's the thing. I love that tape. I love it. Put it in a museum because I think Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt probably believed his opponent was wrong when he says that's not true. This is a Republican governor of a deep red conservative state. He probably watches a lot of Fox News. The idea that Oklahoma is more dangerous than New York sounds preposterous on its face to him. But I don't think he was seeing what's going on in his state, or at least does not want to believe it.
This breaking news taking us to northwest Oklahoma City, where Oklahoma City police have been called out for a bank robbery.
Oklahoma City police want to find dangerous armed robbery suspects.
2 homeowners fight back during a terrifying home invasion.
An accused rapist in Guthrie arrested again.
Oklahoma City police officers on leave after he and his wife were arrested for a string of felonies.
An up-and-coming young Republican arrested for sex crimes with a minor.
After a 2.5-week crime spree, a suspect some call the Sandwich Bandit is locked up.
Sean Eman is facing felony charges after allegedly stabbing another man who was swinging a hatchet at him.
Police say that mail carrier was robbed at gunpoint.
You robbed the mailman. Who does that?
Oh my God! Oklahoma's a hellhole. Don't go there. Seriously, the Oklahoma Democrat running for governor is correct, just on the basic facts. The homicide rate in Oklahoma is higher than New York. It is higher than California, considerably so. In 2020, for instance, Oklahoma had 9 homicides for every 100,000 people. Again, we're talking deep red Oklahoma, where the 2 largest cities are run by Republican mayors. So you can't even blame it on the cities and their libs. Those liberals who wanted to fund the police. No, the Republican mayor of Tulsa and Oklahoma City, I don't think that's them. Now compare that to California with about 6 homicides for every 100,000, or New York with about 5. In fact, just look at the top 10 states with the highest murder rate. Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, Alabama, Missouri, South Carolina, New Mexico, Georgia, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Almost all Republican-run states that vote for Republican presidential candidates every election. Here's another stat for you. The murder rates were 40% higher in states that voted for Donald Trump than states that voted for Joe Biden. So yes, crime is up. But the central lie Fox is peddling and the Republican Party is that it's just the libs in the big cities and those other people, the ones on the security footage we keep showing you, they're responsible. But it's not just happening there, despite what Republicans across the country and that network would like you to believe. Listen to this. Homicide rates increased 25% in rural areas in 2020. Do you think that was because they quote unquote defunded the police or because the liberal prosecutors got in power in rural America? Do you think that's what happened? That is almost as much as the spike in urban areas, which was 30%. So if Republicans really care about this, if they want to make sure that people feel secure in their homes and the streets, they should be talking about the uptick in crime all over. In rural America and urban America. In places that are very conservative, in places that are very liberal, and every politician of every stripe from everywhere should be talking about public safety. I mean real public safety, because people have a right to feel safe and secure. And it's not some crazy fabrication of the right that people are worried about it. They are, and they have every right to be. But if you listen to the lie being told, you will end up at a false answer, and a dangerous one at that. And I have to say, I think Democrats have largely missed the opportunity to talk about public safety this election cycle.
It is Thursday, the 3rd of November of 2022, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. And our daily special is Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of spice in your life. And it's spicy out there with only 5 days left before, well, Election Day. though quite a few, in fact, record numbers have voted. And there seems to be a lot of nefarious behavior going on in terms of, well, you know, ad buys and such in the final push before, well, the official day of the election. And are we up to the task of being able to, well, counter all these lies that are being foisted upon the voting public? And when I say we, I mean the Dems, us. Yeah, you know, Joe gave a historic speech, and I guess the critics are saying, well, you know, he didn't talk about inflation. Well, he kind of did. And we need to remember that it's not inflation, it's price gouging. Because how is it that these corporations are able to reap the kinds of profits that they are making during the so-called inflation? I mean, it's the common tactic. It's the MO of the right wing. Tank the economy. Keep the Democrats from really fixing it. And when they do, just, death by 1,000 pricks, that kind of thing. And when I say pricks, I mean like, you know, real pricks. Not the little stabby things, but a bunch of pricks putting their 2 cents in. All right. And so Joe didn't talk about inflation. He talked about saving democracy. We don't want to save democracy because I want to be able to buy, gasoline at a cheaper price. Okay. You know, they did say that Mussolini made the trains run on time, and so that's why fascism was okay. Until he was hung upside down at the bridge. And it was after he was dead, let's be clear. It was kind of gruesome. I don't know if I like that kind of behavior. But that's what happened. Okay? So much for making the trains run on time as being the end-all of all end-alls. So, apparently Joe is being roundly criticized by all quarters. We got the GOP leadership, McCarthy and McConnell, going on the airwaves saying, it's Joe Biden that's trying to divide us. He's made so many mistakes. He's hiding behind this thing that democracy will fall apart. Only they can rule. Which is the amount of projection that you would expect from these, well, insurgent, fascists. If I call them Nazis, people will say they're not really Nazis. Well, they are fascists. And, confess, I like calling them Nazis because it rolls off the tongue better. Mm-hmm. And in many respects, they are Nazis. And they are fascists. You got Carrie Lake, when asked, hey, it's the election deniers that are the biggest threat to our national security. And she goes out there whining, saying, it's the left that is trying to stifle our free speech. And Carrie Lake sends armed goons to the ballot boxes to intimidate voters. Yeah, and it's the left stifling her free speech. All right. No more Nazis in government. All these election deniers should not be allowed to run. If that's the way it's going to be, it's the way it's got to be. Because apparently, as we have all seen in progress, they are using our institutions. They are using our laws. They are using our form of government against us. And we're stifling their free speech. Oh, it's prejudice against whites that's the big problem. We have to keep the bigotry of the white people at bay. Yeah, well, I just got to say, when the race riots happened, it was the black communities that were burned to the ground. Do you know they're still finding coffins in Tulsa? Talk about CRT. memory holding that, yeah, the black community, Black Wall Street, was razed to the ground. And the black residents said, it was probably, around 100K black people died. And, the white people going, oh, no, it was only about a dozen. Apparently they found another 30 coffins at a burial site that was just discovered. But it's the left that is stifling the free speech of the right. And apparently the, protecting democracy is much less important than crime. And we, as we saw at the very top there, crime is a much more happening thing in red areas, red states, red towns, red cities, red counties. And anecdotally, there has been more murders and more murder attempts in this region of Southern Oregon that I reside in. I call it Sundown Town, Southern Oregon, because it's very white. There have been more murders and more attempted murders, more break-ins, more other kinds of violent crimes here in this area that encompasses about the same amount of area, well, maybe a little bit more. But I'm just saying that there was a lot more people in the Berkeley-Oakland border where I spent most of my 30-plus years in the Bay Area. Always had my domicile there in the Elmwood. But, I had a boat and lived on the boat. And when I was going to grad school, I rented a place out in Lakeshore near campus. Had to go across Stonestown to get to the campus. I could walk. It was within walking distance. Not now. I could not walk that far now. But for most of the almost 35 years, I lived in the Bay Area. Along the Berkeley-Oakland border, there was more murders here in the 7 years that I've been back to take care of my dear old ma. And it is not Democrats running this area. They're all repugs. And I'm talking the most virulent, white-centric kind of repug. We call them maggots now. We're stifling their free speech. They get to fly their literal fuck Biden flags. Not let's go Brandon. I'm saying literally fuck Biden flags across the street from the elementary school. They're back up. They were taken down for a small amount of time. Now they're back up. It's the left that is stifling their free speech. Election workers and volunteers harassed at their homes, threatened, their families threatened. And I'm talking about biker Proud Boy types harassing people in the middle of the night with Klieg lights and bullhorns. It is the left stifling the free speech of the right. Let that be a lesson. The price of gasoline will go down. It is being manipulated, and we know it. In fact, across the whole economy, for some reason, when you get so rich and you don't have any national allegiance, you will do what you want to do when you want to do it, regardless of the geopolitics involved, or maybe because of the geopolitics involved. But people will say, well, the Fed just raised the interest rates again. Joe Biden. 5 days before the midterms, the Fed has to do a rate hike. Gotta slow inflation. Does nothing about stopping the price gouging by these right-wing Burgermeister Nazi industrialists. Let's just call it what it is. It is the left stifling the free speech of the right. All right. Vote accordingly, please. Democratic up and down the ticket. Okay, what's on the rest of the menu here? We already spoke about, crime is a big city, blue state problem is a GOP myth that apparently a lot of them believe. They believe that COVID never really happened. It was all, some sort of deep state manipulation to make us all like cattle. It's the left stifling the free speech of the right. Okay, well, they're going to believe crime is big. I even tried giving facts. They don't care about facts. I've asked any number of MAGAs to show me the appropriations for the rebuilding of these cities that were burned to the ground. They just laugh at me like, you don't believe it, you're brainwashed. Oh, really? Okay, enough of that. What's on the rest of the menu? CBS and its former president, Leslie Moonves, will pay $30.5 million for insider trading. Mm-hmm. The American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada asked the state Secretary of State to investigate a coordinated partisan hand count of mail-in ballots. And when I say partisan, I don't mean the left stifling the free speech of the right. And the Attorneys General of California, Illinois, and the District of Columbia are suing Albertsons to stop the grocery chain from paying a nearly $4 billion dividend to its shareholders. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where North Korea kept up its missile barrage with the launch of an ICBM. And with Bolsonaro tamed in defeat, Brazil steps back from the brink of losing its democracy. Let's hope it's a harbinger of things to come. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, to the right of the page is the chat room link, which is monitored by Kelly Lincoln, not the link, the room. And thank you, Kelly, for doing that and so much more. Across the page from that chat room link is the link to our Patreon page. And yes, we need help paying our bills, so please do become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio. It helps. And if you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, do so at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that. And a hell of a lot more. Thanks, Tom. Follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes 10 minutes before showtime. And that's where the real reportage is, and the full articles, too. So check it out. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West and pick up podcasts by way of Speakers, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. This first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy on this fine Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays is by Bobby Cana Calvin and Stephanie Dazio. CBS and its former president, Leslie Moonves, will pay $30.5 million as part of an agreement with the New York Attorney General's office, which says the network's executives conspired with a Los Angeles police captain to conceal sexual assault allegations against Moonves. Under the deal announced yesterday, Wednesday, by Attorney General Letitia James, the broadcast giant is required to pay $22 million to shareholders and another $6 million for sexual harassment and assault programs. Moonves will have to pay $2.5 million, all of which will benefit stockholders who the Attorney General said were initially kept in the dark about the allegations. At least one of those executives, one of the few privy to an internal investigation, sold millions of dollars of stock before the allegations against Moonves became public, which the Attorney General's office said amounted to insider trading. In October of 2017, the Me Too movement began to pick up steam as media mogul Harvey Weinstein and others in the entertainment industry were accused of sexual abuse. The following month, Los Angeles police received a complaint against Moonves, who less than 3 weeks later called the movement a watershed moment during a Variety magazine summit. Moonves resigned from CBS on September 9th of 2018. In a document outlining the findings of its investigation, the Attorney General's office detailed an alleged scheme by an unnamed Los Angeles police captain to try to cover up the allegations against Moonves. The LAPD later identified the captain as Corey Palka, who retired last year in the rank of commander after 34 years in the department. He had served as the commanding officer of the Hollywood division for more than 3 years. He did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Gabe Stern of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada asked the state Secretary of State to investigate what it called a coordinated partisan election administration effort during rural Nye County's hand count of mail-in ballots that was shut down last week until after polls close. The ACLU said a hand count volunteer openly carrying a firearm removed an ACLU observer from a hand count tally room, which the organization said it recently discovered was Nye County GOP Central Committee Vice Chair Laura Larson. The ACLU said the situation poses questions surrounding Nye County Interim Clerk Mark Kampf's delegation of authority to partisan officials to remove observers from hand count rooms, particularly during a hand count process that deals with tabulations of the ballots. A partisan official from the Nye County GOP Central Committee, given free range to roam the halls and remove those engaging in observation, violates the core principles underlying free and safe elections and makes an even greater mockery of our democracy, ACLU of Nevada's executive director Arthur Hasselbula said in a statement. It's the latest development in a conflict between the rural county's election administration and the ACLU that has spawned lawsuits, infighting, and a Nevada Supreme Court ruling late on October 27th that prompted Secretary of State Barbara Kekavosky, a Republican, to shut down the hand counting until after the polls close on Election Day. Several ACLU members showed up on the first day of hand counting yesterday, Wednesday, in Pahrump, an hour outside Las Vegas. Comp said last week that the ACLU observer at issue was suspected of tallying votes, something that was prohibited when observing the hand count, Volunteers locked the door to the entry room that led to the hand-counting rooms due to the incident with the ACLU. Several volunteers at the time. A volunteer was in charge of opening the door for all observers or volunteers that walked in. A spokesman for Nye County did not immediately respond to an emailed request for comment. Neither did Larson nor Nye County GOP's Central Committee chair. Nye County stopped their hand count process on Friday due to orders from the Secretary of State's office over the early release of results after 2 days of hand counting. It came in response to a new opinion from the Nevada Supreme Court in favor of the ACLU's Nevada chapter, which argued, among other things, that the reading out of ballots risked the release of early election counts. Durbin of the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. The Attorneys General of California, Illinois, and the District of Columbia are suing Albertsons in an effort to stop the grocery chain from paying a nearly $4 billion dividend to its shareholders. The lawsuit, filed yesterday, Wednesday, in U.S. District Court in D.C., asked the court to block the payment until the Attorneys General have reviewed Albertsons' proposed merger with Kroger. The lawsuit is the second this week seeking to delay the dividend payment. The state of Washington's Attorney General filed a similar lawsuit in state court on Tuesday. Boise, Idaho-based Albertsons said that both lawsuits are without merit. Kroger announced its plan to buy Albertsons for $20 billion last month. The deal is expected to close in early of 2024. If it's approved by the FTC and the DOJ and survives any court challenges. The merger agreement included a special dividend of up to $4 billion or $6.85 per share that Albertsons is scheduled to pay its shareholders on Monday next week. The Democratic Attorneys General of California, Washington, Illinois, and the District of Columbia, as well as the Republican Attorneys General of Arizona and Idaho, sent a letter to Albertsons last week asking the company to delay the payment. The Attorneys General say the dividend, which equals nearly one-third of Albertsons' $11 billion market value, would deprive the company of cash it needs to operate while regulators review the merger. The Attorneys General also say it's unclear if the deal will be approved, since federal and state laws forbid mergers that substantially lessen competition. Together, Albertsons and Cincinnati-based Kroger would control around 13% of the U.S. grocery market. Well, that brings us to our break period, and why don't we take a break? And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind,
A new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.